talking, please.
I will, as soon as my screen comes back.
Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville online. My name is Jaie Tiefenbrunn, and I am very pleased to be your Director of Music Ministries. Our collaborative pianist is Holling Smith-Borne, and he'll be joining us shortly. Welcome to our online worship. You can find worship information in our portal at firstuunash.org in the With You Worship portal. As we learn our technology, our opening hymn is number 270, O Day of Light and Gladness. There are links in your chat or on the portal. I'd like to invite you to prepare your body for singing. You could rise in body or in spirit as you're so moved and join us. O day of light and gladness, of prophecy and song, what thoughts within us waken, what hallowed memories throng. The soul's horizon widens, past, present, futures blend, and rises on our vision the life that has no end. Earth feels the season's joyance from mountain, range, and sea. The tides of life are flowing, fresh, manifold, and free. In valley and on upland, by forest pathways dim, all nature lifts in chorus the resurrection hymn. O dawn of life eternal, to thee our hearts upraise. The Easter song of gladness, the Passover of praise. Thine are the many mansions, the dead die not to thee, who fillest from thy fullness time and eternity. I'd like to invite you now to take a moment and center into your heart space and connect with your neighbors who are worshiping with us online.
I invite you to join your hearts and minds in the spirit of worship with these words by John Bannister Tabb. Out of the dusk, a shadow, then a spark. Out of the cloud, a silence, then a lark. Out of the heart, a rapture, then a pain. Out of the dead, cold ashes, life again. Well, once upon a time, I think it was just yesterday, Henny was sitting on her egg. She had this beautiful egg. It was in a nest at the top of the hayloft in the barn. But yesterday, it started to roll down the hay, along the floor, and out a hole. Oh, Henny was so upset. My egg. She ran downstairs, and there was Lammy. Lammy, did you see my egg? Oh, yes, said Lammy. It came out of the ceiling. It fell on my ice cream I was eating. It rolled across the table and out the window. Henny ran to the window and she yelled out, "Help, my egg, I might have lost my egg. Has anyone seen my egg?" Oh, and a little birdie said, "Yes, I just saw an egg roll out the window, along the gutter, down the rain spout." Oh, Henny said, "I better run down and get it." As fast as she could, she ran down, and there by the rain spout was Raccoon. "Raccoon, have you seen my egg?" No, I don't have it, but I saw it. I did. It bounced on my head. It rolled down my back and over there across the yard. Oh, and he started running as fast as she could till she got to the edge of the yard. And it was kind of woodsy there. And there was Fox. But she said anyway, because it was more important to find her egg, "Fox, I think I lost my egg. Have you seen it?" Fox said, "Yeah, it just went through that fence." Oh, Henny got all scrunched up and got through the hole in the fence and ran until I saw a bunny. The bunny was painting Easter eggs. Here, gotta see the bunny painting Easter eggs. Oh, she said, Bunny, did you see an egg roll by?" Bunny said, "Oh, yes, I did. It was cute. I wanted to paint it, and I ran after it, but it went into that hole in that log tree over there." Oh, Henny ran over to the tree, and just as she got there, she saw the egg come out of the other side, and plop, it was gone. It went into a hole. Oh, Henny cried, "Oh no, I've lost my egg. And then popped up out of the hole a little teeny chipmunk. Chipmunk, have you found my egg?" Chipmunk said, "I have found your egg, and it's have a big surprise for you. The egg is broken. It's in lots of little pieces, but look what we have instead. We have a new baby chick." "Oh," said Henny, "a new baby chick. I am so pleased." Henny was sad. She lost her egg, but she was happy she had a new baby chick instead. You would be too, wouldn't you? "Hi, Mommy," said baby chick. So ends my story.
Good morning. My name is Denise Gyauch. I am your Assistant Minister for Congregational Engagement, and it is my deep pleasure to welcome you to worship this morning. If you are watching on Webinar Jam, as we progress through the service, you will see blue buttons for our With You worship portal, for the offering, and for joys and concerns. If you are watching the service recording on YouTube, you will find our With You worship portal on our website, firstuunash.org. In either place, when you click the With You worship portal button, you will find an order of service, copies of the hymns, information about making an offering, and the submission form for joys and concerns. Ordinarily, joys and concerns are not live streamed, but while we are online only, we will share joys and concerns if those who have sent them give permission on the form. Joys and concerns submitted after the middle of the live stream service will be shared with permission during next Sunday's service, and all joys and concerns will be shared as usual with our lay ministers. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We are a welcoming congregation, and we deepen our relationships as we serve our congregation's mission to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world, guided by reason and compassion. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors worshiping with us this morning. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. All are welcome to attend our services, and people become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please contact me, your assistant minister. My email address can be found in the staff directory under Contact Us on our website. Following the service, we hope everyone will enjoy at least one of our online opportunities for fellowship. You can find more information in the online worship portal. There are many announcements posted on our website, and I hope you will read them. And I have been asked to highlight these. Gail and I are each offering an open office hour on Zoom every week. You can drop in to visit with Gail on Wednesdays between noon and 1 p.m., or with me on Thursdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Find more information on our website or our Facebook page. I have the honor of announcing exciting news about our next minister. The Reverend Diane Daugert will be joining us in August as our developmental minister. She is an excellent fit for our needs as a church, and we are very excited for her expertise, collaborative philosophy, and shared ministry approach. She has 19 years experience as a minister, has direct experience as a transitional minister working with all three of our developmental goals, and has a strong social justice background, especially with no more deaths in Tucson, Arizona. Her Sunday worship style draws from a variety of our sources, uses humor, and is thoughtful and engaging. Thank you. For now, while we are meeting entirely online, there are no friendly ushers to pass you the offering bowls, but our fabulous finance and communication folks have made sure that anyone, anytime, can access our online donation form at firstuunash.org. If you are watching right now on Webinar Jam, you can use the offering button on your screen to go to that form. If you are watching on YouTube, you can access the form either from the homepage of our website or by way of the offering section of the With You worship portal. If you would like to mail a check to the church, please write in the memo line how you would like your donation to be used. If you want it to be credited to your pledge, please write pledge. If you write Sunday offering, it will be shared between the church and our Share the Plate partner. You may know that part of every Sunday's collection goes to an organization whose work outside our walls aligns with our values. For April, our Share the Plate partner is NOAH, Nashville Organizing for Action and Hope. As a member organization of NOAH, our annual budget includes part of our organizational dues to NOAH, but the balance of our dues is raised during this month's collections. Through NOAH, our congregation's voice has already been joined with national and local organizations seeking to address the urgent requirements of justice and democracy in the time of pandemic, calling for consideration of the often dramatically unjust public health implications of incarceration and detention at this particular time, and urging Governor Lee to allow local governments more flexibility in safeguarding the economic and physical health of Tennessee communities. Your generosity today allows us to continue bringing the Unitarian Universalist affirmations of the worth and dignity of all human beings and of our deep connections to each other into conversation and action with other communities of faith. In this season of virtual offering bowls, we are especially grateful for the steady generosity, which allows us both within and beyond the congregation to continue creating community, nurturing spiritual growth, and acting on our values. One of the ways we always on Sundays celebrate and strengthen the connections among us is in the communal sharing of our individual joys and sorrows. As a reminder, you can find the joys and concerns form on the With You worship portal or on the button right beside you if you're watching live. In a few minutes, we will hear some music, which will give you a little bit of a chance to fill out that form if you desire. But for just right now, I invite you to settle into whatever space you have made sacred by being in it, wherever you are. Feel the space around you. Take a deep breath. Consider what you feel in your body. Consider the moments, the hours, the days that have brought you here to this time, gathered in this sacred community with us, connected as we always are. And as you are aware of the ways we are connected across both space and time, you may also be aware of within yourself profound joys or sorrows from the preceding days and hours that you have brought to this minute. You may feel moved to share those with you, in which case you can use the joys and concerns form, and we would be happy to share those. But for now, let us listen to this music. We have several joys and several concerns this morning. Evelyn Cotton has a joy. I love having no school. Susie Vickers also has a joy. Tomorrow will be 90 days sober. I get excited and like to share. LOL. Evelyn Cotton has submitted something that is a concern. I miss everybody. I think we all miss each other. Stormy Speaks has a concern. Last Thursday, my job in HR was eliminated effectively immediately. I had been with the company for nearly 4 years, and it came as a total surprise. This is a hard time for so many, and I hope and pray for all who are struggling. Sound. Okay, my sound is good now. Okay. Kate Cotton has a concern for a friend who learned that her elderly mother in the UK has gone to the hospital yesterday and tested positive for COVID-19. I am holding space for the grief that comes with not being able to be with her mother at her time of need. And Elizabeth Gashir shares a joy with us. My brother Aaron is doing great after his stem cell transplant to treat his Hodgkin's lymphoma. He returned to work on schedule, though from home, and his energy levels have steadily increased. Thank you for the thoughts and prayers over the past number of months. Holding these and all of those joys and concerns that we hold as yet unspoken in our hearts, knowing that whatever we are experiencing and feeling right now, many others share those experiences and feelings, and many others have many different experiences. Some of us are isolated at home. Some of us are busier than ever in the world, providing care, medical care, feeding each other, delivering necessities, doing other essential tasks. Some of us are busy, some of us are not busy. But I invite you all, in the spirit of prayer, to join in to the feeling of this poem entitled Pandemic by UU Lynn Unger. And if you are in a busy season of your life, please, we understand that you are not experiencing Sabbath now, but we still hope for you the realization that this poem suggests we might all reach for. Pandemic. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Amen. May it be so.
At this time, I'd like to share a reading with you. It's called The Art of Immersion. Why Do We Tell Stories by Frank Rose. What is it about stories? Anyway, anthropologists tell us that storytelling is central to human existence, that it's common to every known culture, that involves a symbiotic exchange between teller and listener, an exchange we learn to negotiate in infancy. Just as the brain detects patterns in the visual forms of nature, a face, a figure, a flower, and in sound, so too it detects patterns in information. Stories are recognizable patterns, and in those patterns we find meaning. We use stories that make sense of our world and to share that understanding with others. They are the signal within the noise. So powerful is our impulse to detect story patterns when we see them even when they're not there. At first, like film and television in their earliest days, the internet served mainly as a way of retransmitting familiar formats. For all the talk of new media, it functioned a little more than a new delivery mechanism for old media like newspapers, magazines, and music. The emergence of P2P file sharing networks encouraged a lot of people to get their deliveries for free. But as disruptive as the net has been to media businesses, it's only now having an impact on media forms. Under its influence, a new type of narrative is emerging, one that's told through many media at once in a way that's nonlinear, participatory. How is the author supposed to accommodate them? What if the audience runs away with the story? And how do we handle the blur? Not just between fiction and fact, but between author and audience, entertainment and advertising, story and game. So ends my reading. But I'd like to hold that reading as I invite you into the spirit of meditation and reflection. For this, I believe this idea of immersion is not new at all. We are already immersed in stories that people have been involved with through ritual and play, music and song, long after the first storytellers have gone. Ancient stories about goddesses returning from the underworld with hatching eggs or green leaves in the spring. Very old stories about gods being resurrected after death to save the world. Centuries of audiences have run away with these living stories, changed them, recreated them. So I ask you, what stories are you immersed in right now? How do you handle the blur between fiction and fact, between written text and lived experience, between entertainment, play, and spiritual practice? Let us spend a moment in quiet reflection. May it be so.
Our middle hymn is Now the Green Blade Riseth, number 266 in our gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition. Now the green blade riseth from the buried grain. We sweet that in the dark earth many days has lain. Love lives again, that with the dead has been. Love is come again, like weed that springeth green. In the grave they laid him, love by hatred slain, thinking that never he would wake again. Laid in the earth like grain that sleeps unseen. Love is come again, like weed that springeth green. When our hearts are wintry, grieving or in pain, love's touch can call us back to life again. Fields of our hearts, the dead and bare have been. Love is come again, like weed that springeth green.
We are immersed in story through ritual and religious tradition. We have been as human beings since time began. We live those stories because they make meaning out of our very real lives. Easter is one such story. Now, I grew up with the Christian Easter story, which people are celebrating all over the world today as a high holy day. But I was not ever immersed in that story as a child. I was immersed in a more ancient story, the story of Esther, the story of the Easter Bunny coming to bring eggs and candy. As a child, and I'm sure many of you had this experience, we would prepare for Easter. We would bring out our spring clothes and pack away the winter ones, even though it might have still been chilly out. We decorated Easter eggs. We got our Easter baskets and put grass in them. And on Easter Eve, we put them out because we knew the Easter Bunny was going to come as surely as spring would come. We would look for Easter eggs the next morning because the Easter Bunny hid them all over the place, and fill our basket up with that beauty and bounty, never wondering why some of the eggs looked exactly like the ones we had painted. We lived that story, a simple story, and it gave meaning to our lives. It helped us participate with, immerse ourselves in the changing of the seasons. That even in the death of winter, we would move forward. New life would come in the spring, over every year in a cyclical nature. Well, as we grow and mature, we immerse ourselves in more complicated stories, don't we? The Easter story was not a story I immersed myself in. I immersed myself in other stories until I was the minister in a church in Salem, Massachusetts. It was a very traditional, old school Universalist church. And it, quite honestly, was not yet post-Christian. And I had to learn to do things and learn about Christian rituals that I never knew before, because people in that congregation lived them. They made meaning of their lives. Many of the elders in that congregation had grown up in that church. They were all working class in a city that at once had many factories. And yet all those factories now were gone. They had all lost their way of life. The church itself had had 600 members when they were bringing up their children, and now there were barely 100. And all their children had had to move, most of them to other states, to find jobs and homes that they could afford to live in. They had felt a great deal of loss and grieved the world as it had been. At the same time, many of the young people coming in were gay and lesbian. And this is some years ago, so they still felt incredibly oppressed. Some of them were suffering from HIV positive and had lost many of their loved ones. They also had suffered from the cruelty of the world, many losses and betrayals. They too found the need for stories, looking for stories to live that brought them hope of new life and new love. So Easter was very, very important. I had to learn about Holy Week. When I grew up, we never celebrated Holy Week, even though we celebrated Easter. And it's a hard story. It's a sad story. It's a cruel story. I had first to learn about what Maundy Thursday was. I had no idea what that was because we celebrated it at this church. It was on the Thursday before Easter, in which we did communion to celebrate the Last Supper, where Jesus passed on some final teachings to his disciples. And that moved into a ritual, a holy play at its best, called Tenebrae. Tenebrae told the story of the betrayal of Jesus, his arrest, his trial, his condemnation, the torturous journey to the cross, and his execution. That ritual, that holy play, ended with a service in pitch dark as I carried out one little candle, kind of the candle of eternal life, out. And people sang in the balcony, "Were you there when I crucified my Lord?" And did we feel that sorrow? All the sorrows in our own lives of betrayals, injustices, pain, cruelty, death. And then on Easter morning was the rebirth, that promise, that spring and human experience has experienced over and over again, where that light of love and life comes back and starts to grow. Now, I learned about it. I appreciated it. I loved the holy play. I started to understand why this story meant so much to so many people. But it was the 6th year I was there that I started to live it. It was a hard year because these people in this congregation with so many hurts, sometimes they hurt each other. Sometimes they turned their cruelty on one another and found it difficult to keep covenant. And when I got in the middle, I too was cruelly treated, trying to ease the like kids fighting in the schoolyard, quite honestly. And so one day, that Lent, which is the time, 40 days before Easter, in which people prepare their hearts for loss. They prepare their hearts to be connected to all the supports that we need during loss. And it was a rainy, cold Sunday morning. and I was carrying a sculpture into the church that I had made 30 years ago. It was a figure, it was made out of clay, and I was going to use it as an example in the story that morning. It's wrapped up in a blanket. And as I carried it, I slipped on some ice and I fell. And I was banged up. But as I got up, I noticed something even worse happened than a bruises on myself. The sculpture had shattered into 100 pieces. Now I started to cry. I snuck into my office and I sat there and I cried and cried until I could get myself together and it was time to leave the service. Now, I must have been in shock because I got up there and I led that service for an hour as if nothing had happened. I had no pain. I was just fine. I led the service. But after the service, somebody came up to me, as was common, and said something very cruel to me. They used to say things like, you smile too much, or you move too much. But this was even crueler. And it was the last straw. It broke my heart. I went home and the shock wore off. I could feel my heart broken. Also noticed that my body was in pain and that maybe more than my heart was broken. Turned out I went to the emergency room. I had a broken elbow. Had to be fixed. My heart was so broken. It was just the last straw that I considered seriously leaving the ministry because I had tried. I tried to teach covenant this congregation for more than 5 years. But I noticed that I started to play. I would take that broken sculpture and I would arrange it and rearrange it. It had a head that was still intact that kind of looked like Buddha. And it started to look in my mind like an ancient ruins from some distant culture. And as spring started to come and I'd bring in flowers or I started unpacking the Easter goodies with the children. I started putting them with this ancient ruin. And it started to look like the jungle was growing out of the ruins. All this life. I know my elbow was healing. And through this sacred play, I think my heart, too, was starting to heal. I started to consider, well, I really think I failed here. I don't think I can do more in this church as its minister. But I think maybe I'm a match for some congregation. Maybe somewhere there is a place that I can truly serve. So that Easter was a broken egg Easter. And I felt it from the bottom of my heart. The Sunday school children acted out that play, the story of the henny and her broken egg that I just told this morning. And I truly celebrated the new life that was coming to my heart and to the hearts of some of the others that I knew. Well, that brokenness brought me here to you. 15 years ago this week, although it was the week before Easter, we fell in love with each other and you voted me to be your minister. And we have learned the life that covenant brings to one another, treating each other with love and kindness and respect, day after day after day. And my heart has healed. And I've seen all of you heal each other's hearts with all the losses that happen in the best of lives. And now we are living in a great loss, several losses. It seems minor that I am retiring and leaving you in a few months. And it's a relief that you have found another minister who is going to love you. And I know eventually you will fall in love with her too, for she is indeed well matched to you. And yet we have larger losses right now, don't we? We've lost all of our routines, all of our ways to do things. Either we're at the hospital 24/7 and worried about what's going to come ahead, or we are worried for our loved ones who are at risk medically, or we are learning to live new ways during this pandemic. It's unprecedented times. And we need stories to live into that remind us over and over again that we too will find new life and new love out of this. I personally have had to live into those stories of spring and the renewal of life because, quite honestly, I grieve that I cannot say goodbye to you in the ways I had hoped. I grieve that it's all virtual hugs and that our conversations with one another are at a distance as we celebrate, think through, see what we learned from these last 15 years together. Somebody sent me a card last week, and it was a beautiful card. And I opened it up, and it had this note in it about our time together. And I cannot tell you what it meant to me to have this physical, sensate card. It just made up a little bit for the lack of hugs as we say goodbye. So maybe we can send more cards to each other in the weeks ahead as the pandemic continues. In the meantime, I pray for you and all of us for holy play, holy stories that remind you that you too will find new life and love as this pandemic calms down and we find new ways to live in a new world. May you find and immerse yourself and live and make meaning from those stories. May it be so.
I'd like to invite you to join me in our closing hymn, number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. Can't really think of a more appropriate song for today. Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. Lo, the earth awakes again, hallelujah, from the winter's bond and pain, hallelujah. Bring me leaf and flower and spring, hallelujah, to adorn this happy day, hallelujah. Once again the word comes true, hallelujah. All the earth shall be made new, hallelujah. Now the dark cold days are o'er, hallelujah. Spring and gladness are before, hallelujah. Change then mourning into praise, hallelujah. And for dirges anthems raise, hallelujah. our spirits soar and sing, Alleluia. How our hearts lift a spring, Alleluia.
The words for our chalice extinguishing, written by Elizabeth Zella Jones, can be found at the bottom of your order of service. Please join with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'd like to end with these words by E.E. Cummings that I have recited many, many, many an Easter as we close. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees and a blue, true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today. And this is the sun's birthday. This is the birth, day of life and love and wings, and of the gay, great, happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, how should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the know of all nothing, human merely being, doubt, unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are open. This service is over. Let our service begin again, renewed.